Hello, and you're listening to the Book Was Better podcast, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film. I'm Luke.
I'm Courtney.
And this week we're talking about Goldeneye.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand and trust me, the book was better.
Oh yeah, I can sing along with it now.
You can, yes.
You're welcome.
Very generous description of what you just did, but sure. And
I cannot sing. I can do many things, Mr. Milton. Singing is not one of them.
and this is it the book was better, or is it... That's cute for you to say the Bond was better.
Oh right. Oh shit.
Which you've been saying non-stop for the last, 3 or so weeks as we've planned this.
I'm not used to this Skype thing. Yeah, I'll blame it on that.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm not going to edit, so let me just say, is this the book was better, or is it more like...
The Bond was better.
Smooth.
Dun, dun, dun,
Dun, dun,
dun.
dun. Dun, dun, dun. Brr, 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 brr. Why is there not? Like, if Daniel Craig is going to leave the Bond franchise, why not open it up and have Bonds all over the world, and every country can have their own Bond film?
And
And
sort of like an international franchise, if you will.
yeah, and because diversity is key now, 2017. Australia's Bond, obviously, Sam Wortho.
I was going to say Hugh Jackman. I think Hugh Jackman would be
fucked.
good, but...
Sam Wortho is the best bloody actor in Australia. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to have that bloody singing, dancing Hugh Jackman around. It's going to be Sam Wortho. His first movie is going to be called Brown Eye. And because there's lots of Bonds, his name can be Ford instead. And instead of saying Bond, James Bond, he can say...
Ford, mate. Ford. Fucking Ford.
like, whenever he meets a lady.
And I don't think he would use guns. I think he would just use his forehead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just smashing through walls.
Or maybe a boomerang, which is culturally insensitive, but I still, it's still a blockbuster movie, so baby steps.
Yeah, it's an Australian thing, so we're getting there.
Now, I just got to say, Courtney, because there's a grand tradition, especially over the last few years, if it's the beginning of April and you and I are doing a show, people are listening and then partway through they realise something's not quite right here. And they realise they've been made a fool of.
It is a bit of a tradition with us, yes.
Yeah, so normally people would be like, oh, what's going on? Are you really going to do Goldeneye? Because we've been pranksters. We've been like Loki, god of mischief.
Exactly.
We've pulled the wool over their eyes. But I'm saying not happening this year.
Yes, definitely. We are not up to any tricks. This will just be a straight-up GoldenEye review, no funny business whatsoever.
I didn't get... It will not be funny at all.
No.
Nothing we're going to say or do is going to be funny. And the thing is, I realize that people, just by way of me saying at the beginning, look, this isn't a trick, this is real, there's no fooling here, that they're already suspicious because of previous years. And they think maybe that is part of the ruse. But it is definitely not. This is a real book, and basically I just didn't write anything. I didn't get anything together. Maybe I should have written Wertho's Brown Eye or something, but didn't do it. I couldn't think of a way to do it which would be different from previous years, so I felt like you don't want it to start expecting it. You've got to keep that fresh.
Yeah. So it's sort of like this Russian roulette of April Fools. Is it happening this year? Is it not? You don't know.
That's right. So, not happening this year. This is a real book. Who wrote this book?
John Gardner, who he's a pretty interesting guy, actually.
I'll be the judge of that.
Sorry, what was that?
I said I'll be the judge of that. I just realised I can't really talk over the top of you while we're doing a Skype cast.
That's normally how we communicate to each other. We're just sort of talking at each other. Yes, so he is an English spy and thriller novelist. He wrote continuation novels about James Bond and, side note, also about Moriarty. Kind of curious about that. Was a Royal Marine. So, the guy knows his stuff about the more technical things in this book, as we will see.
No Wikipedia pasting for John Gardner.
No, however, I have done a few Wikipedia saves this time because, it gets very technical at some points, and I don't care for that.
Sometimes you just got to skip through the plot, and if somebody's already written a summary of it, why do it yourself?
Yeah, we don't want to bore you guys. We want to actually just focus on all the fun stuff.
It's not a test. It's not like a test as to whether we like read the book. This is just fun. It's entertainment.
So later, John Gardner became an Anglican, I can't talk tonight, fucking hell, Anglican priest, but he lost his faith and left the church after a short time after a battle with alcohol addiction. He wrote his first book, the autobiographical Spin the Bottle, in 1964. So he could have written some stuff about Iron Man if he had, lived to see that franchise start.
I bet Iron Man's played Spin the Bottle a few times. Not a very effective game to play in the Avengers Mansion, though, I would think, considering 9 times out of 10 you're going to get like Hulk, because he takes up multiple spots in the circle.
That's true.
Thor, which I guess if you've had a few beers, Thor looks kind of like a lady.
Well, I mean, he has been able to fool frost giants in that way before, so yeah, he's a very pretty man.
This is true.
So this guy, not Thor, wrote over 50 works of fiction, including 14 original James Bond novels and 2 novel versions of Bond movies. So yeah, I think we're in good hands here. However, yes, he died from heart failure in 2007. Have we had a dead author on the show before?
Yes, many times.
Okay, because I was wondering, is it okay to make fun of a dead person's work?
It hasn't stopped us before.
No, otherwise it'd be a very short show.
We remember George Guy, Back to the Future. A couple of years later, he died from an allergic reaction to a bee sting.
I've never been stung by a bee, so that could happen to me.
I've mentioned that many times on the podcast because it's just one of those things, and it's just a good warning. Sometimes you just got to leave the honey alone.
Mm-hmm.
Just got to keep
he was
walking.
whacking at it with the stick.
Yeah, he got a big balloon, sang a little song, went up into the tree to try and get the honey.
Damn it, Disney, you're responsible for so many deaths.
This is true.
When will the murders end?
I should also say here, because this is one of those rare occasions where, not so rare for you, but rare for me, where I haven't read the book. You did this time. You read the book. You took the notes. I haven't read them yet. This is going to be all new to me. So I'm in the passenger seat. I'm going to be hearing this stuff for the first time and responding. And it's like a holiday for me. I love it when that happens.
Always saving your ass.
Yes, this is very true. So I didn't even rewatch the film. I just wanted to really take this book for what it is. Though I do have many fond memories playing the Goldeneye video game on the Nintendo 64, I believe.
Yes, I was going to ask you what your experience with this movie or the game was.
Was not particularly into the Pierce Brosnan Bonds. Never really went and saw them at the cinema or anything, but this game was a staple in our share house. We were always shooting each other in GoldenEye, and you could also pick characters to play from other movies like Oddjob and Jaws.
Could you play as Jaws, or was he just a nemesis?
No, well, in the multiplayer, you could play as anyone.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so not the story mission, the story you played as Bond, but in the multiplayer, you could be a little Oddjob crawling through a vent.
Apparently, they've remade it as a PlayStation game with Daniel Craig. I don't know when that was, but
I hear it was I'm pretty bum.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
But so I enjoyed that, and I think something that I remembered when I was thinking about that, because if you look back at it now, it looks incredibly primitive. Very polygony people that barely look like people. They look like Lego people.
When I was looking up some stuff in the Bond Wikia, I was seeing some of these characters list. One of the listing was their GoldenEye game appearance, and they've literally just taken a photo of, say, Sean Bean's face and then wrapped it around a polygon head. Oh, it was hideous.
But I will say, this is a weird memory I have, as primitive as that was. I know, in later years, playing something like one of the later GTAs or even Vice City or something, you feel that kind of guilty sickness when you kill people on the street.
I don't like being mean in
games. There's something odd about that. And even back in GoldenEye, you could actually shoot the scientists. And I remember just having that crosshair on this sad-looking polygon man who now you realize there's nothing real about it all. But it's funny how, like, your imagination fills the gaps. And I remember feeling, like, really guilty if I shot any of those guys.
That reminds me, I don't think I played the original GoldenEye, but I really loved the Spyro games as a kid. So that's PlayStation 1, showing how young I am. And my brother set up the PlayStation 1 again, started playing the game, and I was like, oh, I have such fond memories of it, and it was just such a magical world. It looks like utter shite. You can't even look at it, it's so blurry.
And funnily enough, when I play The Sims and I wall up a neighbor in my basement and they piss themselves and then I set them on fire, I don't feel guilty at all. I kind of am amused by that.
I felt bad about watching the Monster Factory episode where they played The Sims, and I was just like, oh, these poor characters, they're so helpless.
What is Monster Factory?
Monster Factory is by two of the McElroy brothers who do My Brother, and Me, not to promote another podcast that is more successful than us, but, you know, most people probably know about them.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah, fuck those nice boys, the best boys ever were.
Fuck those wonderful, articulate, successful boys. So let's talk about GoldenEye.
Yes, so I was going to say that Pierce Brosnan is my Bond. He was the one I grew up with. I do have quite vivid memories of watching all of them. We would go to Blockbuster and rent out DVDs and VHSs. And yeah, I'd watch it with the whole family. Which, in hindsight, there are some scenes I shouldn't have been watching, but that just went way over my head.
Oh, Bond is so tame.
It is.
Yeah, it's camp kind of tame, especially back then.
Especially, yeah, the Pierce Brosnan ones, I'll get into that a bit more in this story, is that it doesn't know tonally. I think I've mentioned in the other Bond was better. Tonally, it doesn't know what it wants to be, because sometimes it gets quite dark, and other times it's just all-out camp.
All right, so I guess no montages of bikini girls or anything to put us into this. We're just going to have to go straight into the beginning.
Well, I could sing the song if you like, and then you can imagine the gun coming out of a woman's mouth and all those other interesting shots that they had in the
Who
intro.
did the song?
It was written by Bono and The Edge, and it's performed by it's Tina Turner. Yeah.
Wow.
GoldenEye.
Sign of the times. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
So here we go. Cow slip, 1986. Cow slipped.
Is it a cow slip or is it cow's lip? Who can say?
A cow slipped and its lip fell in some shit. April Fools!
Oh, we're geniuses.
There you go. That was your April Fool's trick, because it was just a place. Cowslip. All right. His head seemed to explode. He felt the great roar in his ears, the pounding of blood, then the sensation that his skull was riddled with holes. Fire poured through the holes from his ears and nostrils, then his mouth. Fire... I've just read that. James Bond jerked awake. I've jerked asleep before. Jerked awake, realizing several things at once. The roar came from two Soviet jets, afterburners guzzling fuel as they passed overhead. He recalled that, at the briefing, they had said military jets often flew low over the mountains, heading back to their base near Russia's oldest seaport, Archangel.
So we start with a sleepy James Bond on a plane. It's hardly the explosive cold open we're used to.
Oh, Christ, if, like, fire is pouring through his ears and nostrils and skull from two jets going overhead, how is he going to cope if he's, like, in a fight or a chase?
Yeah,
What a softie.
Yeah. He's got pretty hardcore dreams, man.
He's on a plane. I thought, like, his head seemed to explode because he was sitting on the plane doing a particularly difficult Sudoku book or something. Here's some more. Beneath those rocks lay the target, biochemical processing plant number 1. In spite of the 1972 convention, the Soviets had gone on making biological and chemical warheads deep under the earth in this bleak place. Look, this is ripped straight from today's headlines. Until now, M had told them the manufacture was confined to known horrors, anthrax and a number of nerve and more conventional gases. But now the place was being retooled to produce something far more deadly. One of the many viruses which were being isolated as man's... just slopping around all over the streets. That would be fantastic.
That would certainly have been memorable. Yeah, so it is interesting that in this movie they do talk a lot about, the Cold War is over, so where does Bond fit into the world? The Russians aren't a threat. And yeah, it's kind of topical now. So what goes around comes around, I suppose.
This could really be a problem for Bond, this blood thinning thing, because his blood is often racing into his erection. So imagine he's trying to please one of these ladies, and then his main organ shuts down. That would be quite a problem, quite embarrassing for Britain, I would think.
In order to stop the Soviets, the former M sends his best men, 007 and 006, Alec Trevelyan. As a kid, I have to say, I thought it was cool to see another 00 agent. I don't know if there were any... Well, I'd only ever seen the Brosnan movie, so there might be others in other movies, but he was the first one I saw.
I just had a weird moment of, what, M? Him? What? I can't think of anyone other than Judi Dench.
Judi Dench she's M. She defines that character, and when I go back and watch the old movies, I just go, oh, who's this old guy?
I'm
whatever.
like that in the bedroom too. I can't think of anything but Judi Dench. So
Judi Drenched.
Judy Mariana Trench in her pants. April Fools! Alex Trevelyan had been inserted 3 days before into Archangel itself. Professor X was quite embarrassed. He had to do a really awkward press conference about that. And if all the documents were in order and no one questioned his cover, he should by now have made the long underground journey into the processing plant itself.
Sorry, my dog wanted to go out, but I was paying attention, I swear.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, let's get your dog to co-host next time, huh? How about that?
Damn it, Bailey. So 006 is played by Sean Bean, doing an acceptable. I was going to say exceptional. No, it's acceptable. RP accent. Bit of trivia: the reason the Starks in Game of Thrones all have northern accents is simply because Sean Bean claimed he couldn't do an RP. Oh, received pronunciation accent. I'm calling you out on your bullshit, Mr. Bean.
Oh God, what if Mr. Bean was the bad guy in this?
I think Mr. Bean in anything immediately improves and ruins it.
Like he just spins around on his chair and he's stroking his teddy bear menacingly. I will say about the writing in this, though. I mean, there's nothing amazing, but it's very, very confident, believable. Like it feels like a Bond.
Yeah, at times it actually feels a little bit like Ian Fleming wrote it.
The litmus test for any book was better book, and I said this recently before, that if it stands alone, if you could read it and go, yep, I accept that was a novel, even if there wasn't a movie, then it works. But usually movies, they go into some weird territory at some point, and then the illusion disappears.
Yes, so that will definitely be noticeable coming up now. We finally get to the bungee jump scene. It's probably the most iconic and thrilling moment in the movie. I think when I think of the Pierce Brosnan movies, I would place that, in the top 10 moments. But I found out that it's apparently still the highest bungee jump ever put on film at 235 meters or 722 feet if you use that system. And watch it on a big screen if you can. Honestly, well, maybe it's just me personally, but I kind of get vertigo watching it. It's just, I love that shot so much. So it's a pretty tall order to expect a book to capture that excitement. Does Gardner succeed? No, not even close. In fact, most of it isn't even worth quoting. However, this line is laughable.
Ducking under the rail, he glanced back to be certain the cord was free of any obstruction and could not get tangled. Then, expelling his breath in a loud "wah" sound, James Bond launched himself from the top of the dam. I bet it sounded a bit like this.
I never get tired of that.
Tom Cruise. What do you think they did to him in the sound booth to get that sound out of his body?
Pulled out some fingernails?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a fingernail. Or maybe a thumb. I don't know.
So creepy.
There is something a bit upsetting about it. I don't know what it is.
It's the mummy.
I won't talk about that. We got to focus on James Bond,
Okay.
but I have opinions.
I can hear your family, by the way, just if anyone's curious about ghost voices. I can't hear what they're saying. I can just hear them occasionally.
Yeah, well, it serves them right if they are immortalized on our immortal podcast.
This is true. A lot of people, and very important people, listen to this. So better watch what you say.
I think we have discussed before, but is there a way to write action sequences like that in a way that is thrilling? I can't even imagine.
I think there is, and I think we've seen that in some things, but I think they're very difficult to excerpt, like in a podcast like this. I think, a really good action scene builds. And I think if you, just take a piece out, it's a problem. I also think that maybe, I don't know, like in terms of injuries and things like that, I've been thinking about this lately because I saw Life the other day, which I'll review on next week's FP cast.
I'm curious about that one.
Yeah, but I was thinking injuries in movies, and I'm sure this would go the same for action sequences, work the best when they're very specific. Like if somebody just has a creature jumping on them and clawing at them and stuff, it's not such a big deal as somebody like getting their hand mangled.
Yeah, that's true.
Or their foot mangled, or having to cut their own arm off, or whatever. Anything that's really specific and sort of dwells on that. And I think of all those really effective sequences like that, and they've been really tied to a particular body part or feeling. And I feel like, just to try and get back on track, that really good action as well needs to be very specific. It can't just be and there were explosions and there was, like, you have to feel what the thrust of the threat is.
That's true. And before I got to this part in the book, I was imagining how I would write the bungee jump sequence, and I was thinking, I think you'd really slow down time, you'd get inside his head, you would really try and capture that scope and size. I don't know what other word it is. Just the epicness of that moment.
Yeah, and travel through the character as well. Like, make us understand what the character feels. Something I really liked about, I think it was the Alien Resurrection book, was that when the, face huggers were going into people's bodies, it really made you understand from that character's perspective what that felt like. And that made it very frightening, as opposed to somebody using the God voice to just say, oh, and then it attacked him or whatever. It actually described the feeling of this thing going down your throat. And I think to have that perspective, to go on that journey through what a character would feel like in that situation, I think that's what probably makes action work really well.
We're having serious literary discussions. April Fools!
April Fools, you fools!
Okay, so Bond sneaks inside, but he is soon interrupted by someone.
You do the dialogue, and I'll do the rest.
Don't even breathe.
A voice said in Russian. Then,
where are the others? I'm alone.
His voice was a fraction more relaxed.
Aren't we all?
There was a faint chuckle and the lights came on, almost blinding him with their brightness. He turned to see his old friend, Alex Trevelyan, grinning at him, still looking like the eternal schoolboy. Many had said of Trevelyan that he had a picture in his attic like Dorian Gray.
This makes me wonder who they were originally going to cast, because, Sean Bean, he was a handsome guy, still is.
No, if you were a schoolboy and you were sitting in your class and Sean Bean was in one of your classmates, you would freak the fuck out.
Yeah, he was never exactly babyface. Look at that chin. The way they describe him throughout the whole book, you'd think it was like, I don't know, Dane DeHaan. I don't know if he's well known enough, but, the guy from Spider-Man, what the shit was that called?
Spider-Man Legends of the Web.
Electro, that one. Anyway, he
Avengers.
was Harry Osborn. Yeah. That guy's 35.
Norman Osborn. Harry Osborn. Norman Osborn?
Yeah, Harry. I had it right first. Yes.
April Fools!
Bloody hell. So, it wouldn't be a mission if things didn't go wrong. This is Colonel Oromov.
The disembodied voice grated.
You are surrounded, and there is no way you can escape. I went a bit German there, sorry. But you know what? More accurate than the Russian accents in this movie. Hang on, let's get back into that again. Yes, just drop any weapons and come out with your hands on your heads now.
No way, Bond muttered. That's the word, though. No way, Bond muttered, continuing down the line of steel vats that towered above him. Aloud, he called, Alec, put that bit of high-tech
gadgetry in reverse. Just hit the switch on the left side.
It
has to be slightly Irish because he can't do British.
Well, I can't read, so there's something.
Yeah. I was going to take over. Yeah, you can just go to bed, Luke. I'll keep going. Yeah.
I probably will be in bed before this finishes. We're half an hour in and we're on with the first scene. He had almost reached the final pressure cooker device.
Alec.
He ducked down and peered around the corner of the drum. His old friend 006, Alex Trevelyan, knelt on the floor. Behind him, with the muzzle of the pistol against Trevelyan's cheek, stood a tall, sinister Soviet officer wearing the shoulder boards of a colonel. He was backed by half a dozen heavily armed troops, one of whom loosed off a round in Bond's direction.
Now, Oromov berates the soldier who did that in the book. In the movie, he wordlessly just turns to the guy and shoots him in the head. I think that's much more dramatic.
Russians.
My dog wants to come back in. What an asshole. Come on. You have anything to say?
Bailey, what's your problem, pal?
Just needs to know what everyone's doing at all times. So if he hears noises out there,
okay. Well,
my
Bailey,
have gone now.
We're recording a podcast. Is what we're doing. Does he talk?
Sometimes he has a long, soft palate, so sometimes he makes choking noises. But he doesn't speak on command.
Oh, right. Well,
God, what are you good for, Bailey?
Nothing. You kill him, we all die. Bond knew that was pretty near the truth. Apart from the grenade, the main charge would blow in about 30 seconds.
You think I'm not afraid to die for my country?
Oromov snapped. Then he pulled the trigger and Bond saw his old friend topple over. Without a second thought, he dropped the grenade, leaped to his right onto the conveyor belt, his free hand smacking the start button on the metal upright. Whatever that is.
What?
Whatever that is.
Oh, yeah. That I've read that a few times going, no, I have no further context for you. Sorry, there's none to be had. So, Bond's troubles are far from over. Outside, he must fight his way out of the facility. He has only minutes to avoid the massive explosion. He steals a motorcycle and chases after an out-of-control prop plane. Again, this scene is not nearly so dramatic as it is in the film. The book, and presumably the script, plays it pretty safe, but the film turns all the stunts up to 11. Bond launches himself off the bike, over the side of a cliff, down towards to the already nosediving plane. He manages to pull himself inside, climb towards the pilot's seat, fighting against gravity and avoiding certain death by mere meters. It's a shit-your-pants moment akin to the opening of Uncharted 2, and we're only 10 minutes into the movie.
30 minutes into the podcast, though.
30 minutes into the podcast, yes. I would say it's one of the very best cold opens in the entire franchise. I'm not exaggerating.
What about the one where he surfs?
I feel like that doesn't reflect the character.
Surfing on a blue screen, wearing the Hawaiian shorts.
Yeah.
With Batman and Dick Grayson on either side of him.
This sums up everything you need to know about James Bond. If you were showing this to someone who knew nothing about this character, this is what you'd show them. And I think that's what a good cold open should do. I'm trying to remember, do the Daniel Craig ones even have cold opens anymore?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they do. They definitely do. Because Skyfall has that whole sequence with the train and everything, and then the titles happen after he gets shot and falls in the water.
So well integrated.
Because the titles follow him down into the water.
I think that is my favorite opening sequence.
That is an amazing one as well. That bit where he jumps onto the train as it all is getting ripped around behind him. And he stands up and adjusts his cuff of his jacket. Oh. I love that. It's such a just really tight, awesome character moment of him doing something really badass and then adjusting his suit.
Because really fluid Bond motion. Shouldn't be realistic. He's essentially British Superman.
And he shouldn't be a scruff bag. He shouldn't be looking like a dog's breakfast out there. He should be looking sharp, crisp. Should look like an advertisement for something.
Yes, at all times. So I don't know. What about Sam Worthington as James Bond? I can't see that.
Oh, well, that's different. Like that, that's Australian. He's not trying to be crisp British. He would have a suit, a tuxedo, but it would be made out of flannel from Coles.
And he call it his monkey suit all the time.
Oh, I got to put on me bloody monkey suit again. M stands for mate.
So who's M in that?
It's got to be like bloody Weno.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe oh god, the old guy from, is it Home and Away?
I don't know.
Stone the Crows. And
Al Stewart. Fuck
Al
yeah,
Stewart.
That'd be great. Don't come the raw prawn with me, Bond. You think I came down in the last shower? You flaming galah.
I look like he's big and blue with a tail.
All right,
getting back on track.
We cut to 9 years later, and I bet it feels like 9 years later as well if you've been listening to this from the beginning. The south
we are delightful and charming,
Yes,
and
we are.
everyone's enjoying this.
Everyone's enjoying this soon-to-be 3-hour podcast. The south of...
They saw my name on this episode. They knew what they were in for.
It's a work day tomorrow. I've got to get up at some point. Or I'm going to have to leave the podcast to go to work because it's going to be that time.
You could just go. I'll keep going.
The south of France, Bond often reflected, was not what it used to be. The coastline, which runs from Saint-Tropez to the Italian border just to the east of Menton, was packed to capacity during the season. The once leisurely... I am reading this cold for the first time. The once leisurely Promenade d'Anglaise in Nice was even leisurely, but today it was because of the steady, slow-moving stream of traffic, cars, and abundance of tour buses, which made it more like Paris in the late afternoon. Now, in the early summer of 1995, Bond detested the crowds, the traffic, and the obvious growth of pollution, not only in the air, but also in the sea itself. There was trouble in what used to be paradise.
1995, I was 3.
I was 19.
Yeah. I was expecting you to say a ridiculous number as usual. Bond is a bit of a snob. It is not the only time he sort of goes, ugh, this is not what it used to be. Honestly, Bond, I'm sure you can go and visit some obscure, exotic location. Now this one's too mainstream.
Paris. Buh.
Everyone goes there. So James is currently driving his Aston Martin up the narrow mountain roads, while a fretful psychiatrist named Caroline sits in the passenger seat. She has been sent by MI6 to evaluate Bond.
Is she hot?
Yeah, she's pretty cute.
Do they say that she's hot?
They don't actually go into too much description. They just sort of... is it actually in this section? No, I have let you down. But it's sort of not all together.
Okay, sure.
Just take my word for it.
Okay, I will. I'm completely lost as to what is happening and what we're talking about now, but I'm going to read this. James, do we really have to go quite so fast? She glanced at him and then turned her attention quickly back to the road, for a large truck was rounding the bend, taking up more of the Aston Martin's road than it should. Bond shifted down to third and eased the car over so that the two cars passed safely with around an inch between them. Speed, my dear Caroline, is one of the few true aphrodisiacs left to mankind. What about meth?
Yeah.
He gave her a wicked smile, the cruel mouth lifting in pleasure while his startling ice-blue eyes twinkled. Now, is this Bond?
Yes.
Bond's got a cruel mouth.
Yes. So I think the author is drawing upon Ian Fleming's original description. So, yes, bright blue eyes, dark hair, and a cruel, sharp, featured face.
Right. Caroline swallowed. I prefer soft lights, music, and champagne, she said bluntly. That's good as well. James, I like a spirited drive as well as the next girl, but, well, what have we got here? His head turned to a bright yellow Ferrari 355 pulled alongside, its driver glancing across with a mocking smile. The driver had a dark, gypsy look about her, and the smile held a hint of challenge that Bond could not ignore as the Ferrari eased ahead of him.
Now, in the book and the film, Caroline asks, "Who's that?" To which Bond in the film gives a suitably clever yet cheesy response, "The next girl." I like that. That's clever. I like it.
Is that why you included that?
No.
Okay, all right.
Because the
Yes.
book, for some fucking reason,
Okay.
he just says, "Haven't a clue," and then a little bit later, "But she's shaking her tail at us." What? That's fucking dumb.
Shaking a
What?
tail feather at
That's-
the Bond. And he can't resist an advert symbol like that. He's got to have it.
Oh yeah, so later Bond heads to a casino and sees the distinctive yellow Ferrari parked out front, heading towards a baccarat table. Who should he find but the mysterious owner of the car?
And is she hot?
Well,
She wore a...
I should do this actually. 'Cause,
Okay.
you keep fucking it up.
All right, well, you have a go. Come on then, smart guy. Let's hear it.
all right. Yeah, okay. She wore a simple black dress and a diamond choker at her neck. The diamonds could well be real, and she certainly looked like the proverbial $1 million. As she glanced up, he saw the gypsy look he had caught from the glimpses of her in the car. Oh, I forgot a comma.
Yeah,
Sorry.
now who's so clever? Hey?
I have failed. He caught from the glimpses of her in the car. Came from the jet black eyes and the smoothness of her hair, which had depth of texture to it that reminded him of a bolt of silk.
Because Bond spends a lot of his time fabric shopping.
I know, that sounds like I would describe this character.
He is a seamstress
Yes.
on the weekends, so it makes sense that he would instantly think of a bolt of silk. And what's he got against gypsies? He keeps riding this gypsy thing all the way. Like, is he Captain Haddock? What's going on?
I thought he was into the gypsy thing. I think he's sort of exoticizing her.
He wants to cross a palm with silver pearly cum. April Fools! Yes, so who is this? What's the actress here? Who's this Bond girl?
Famke Janssen, and she fucking owns it as the femme fatale.
Thank you for the Famke.
She's dressed to kill, she's doing her best moose and squirrel accent, and she is as camp as a 60s villain, but also comes across as a legitimate threat. She makes this movie so much fun.
Can I ask your name, or is that coming?
Oh, it is soon to show up, so
Okay,
we should...
all right.
we should-
Don't
yes,
spoil it.
hold off.
No spoilers.
So, Bond wins the game of Baccarat against her.
The woman gave a small shrug as though losing was an occupational hazard. She rose to leave the table, once more nodding towards Bond.
Enjoy it while it lasts. I think that's Bond's dialogue. That's another thing. It's not actually clear in the.
Oh my god.
Yeah, enjoy it while it lasts.
This is a house of
it's
cards we have built.
Yeah, it's a way to live life. Enjoy everything. I know we need to edit this out. Fuck this. Oh no. And I'm swearing, and that's going up into our
Yeah.
stats. Oh
Yeah.
no.
You did look. What a balls up. I give you a simple job, and look what's happened. Look at what's happened. Look at the shards of crumbled podcast that are left.
I'm sorry. Anyway, it's the way to live life, enjoy everything. This time, his meaning was quite plain. Why not enjoy some of it with me? She did not look back as he walked away. So, yeah, actually saying that out loud, I didn't make any mistakes there. That
Okay.
is verbatim how, because I have looked, that's verbatim how it is in the books. That's really hard to follow.
Yes, true. I'm gonna edit you here.
Yeah, that just crashed and burned.
I
Can you take that from the top.
I feel like no, I'm not gonna. No, I mean, I'm not gonna edit that bit because I'm not editing. I'm gonna edit the bit that's next. I think the important part of this large paragraph is her name, so I'm gonna go to that bit.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
The waiter acknowledged the order, asking her how she would like her martini. Straight up with a twist. Then, as the waiter moved away, "Thank you, Mister. The name's Bond. James
Ford,
Bond."
mate. Ford. Fucking Ford.
She reached across the table and shook his hand. "Xenia on a top." "On a top?" "On a top," she nodded.
Xenia on a top.
Xenia on a top.
Actually, I did include the bits above that. They are significant for Bond law reasons, but I don't know if anyone else gives a shit.
Try them. They've come this far, Courtney. They're either going to stick this out or they're going to go, hey, driver, ding, 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 this is my stop, and they're going to just fuck off.
So to briefly summarize, the whole vodka martini... Well, Bond has a martini. Xenia has a vodka martini. Apparently you're not supposed to have vodka in a martini. And also the whole shaken, not stirred. That actually makes the alcohol less potent. So there's all these sort of subtextual things implied there. I think in Xenia's case, it's just because she's Russian. It's like, yeah, she drinks vodka.
If you're Bond, though, and you have the risk of somebody trying to, like, garrote you while you're taking a piss, you probably don't want the alcohol to be as potent.
And that's why I think he does it. That's the only explanation I can think of.
Yeah, because he doesn't know what's going to happen. He could be taking a shit and, like, the toilet paper could blow up. Like, he
is this going to be in the Australian Bond? Is he going to be like, oh, we cut out.
Nope, what? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was saying...
This is going very well.
Oh, yeah. You know what? We would be much more professional if I were in the room. This is not my fault. It's technical issues.
Okay, sure.
Yes. Yeah, so is this the tone of the Australian James Bond? Is this going to be halfway through a fight scene? It's like, oh, could you hang on, mate? Just got to take a shit.
Yeah. It's going to be called Dunny Banger.
God damn it. That's not funny.
And Tina Arena's going to sing the opening song.
Oh.
Or Shannon Knoll singing Dunny Banger. So
I kind of want Tina Arena to sing.
Well, look, they can do a duet. That's fine.
Oh, no.
Yes.
My mum keeps running into Shannon Knoll. Not to digress too much, but she keeps running into him.
Who does? Your mum.
My mum, yeah.
Runs into him, like in person.
Yeah, she's one time she was in Sydney and she was at a restaurant or something, and she's at the bar, and he came up and she was chatting with him, and then she was, I don't know, I think she was again at some kind of pub or what have you in Perth, and he was there as well.
I was going to say, he doesn't hang out in the best places. Like, wasn't he just arrested for having a Barney outside a strip club?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Did your mum see him then?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask.
Ask. Yeah. Don't mention me, though, when you ask that question.
Also, does anyone know who Eddie Maguire is? No, outside of Australia, I guess no one does. But
no.
Yeah, he tried to take my mum out on a date. So,
really?
okay. Yeah, my mum gets around.
Crikey.
Crikey Moses.
Good gosh.
All right, getting back on track. Bond observes Xenia from afar later that evening as she, seems suspicious to him, so he's monitoring her. And then it's hard to describe because the technology is so outdated, but essentially he asked Moneypenny to do some research, and then they transmit it through the CD
let's
DVD.
Let's see how well he does here. Transmission begins. Bond smiled as a slightly breathy voice came clearly into the car through its 8 speakers, and at the same moment a fax began to emerge in full colour from the CD slot.
What's a fax?
What's a CD slot? A fax from the CD slot. That is living the fucking dream in the 90s, isn't it? The first photograph was of Xenia. I remember when people, like, in the early days of the internet, like very early days, would print out porn in black and white on like a dot matrix printer.
Oh my God.
You would really have to, like, you'd be basically looking at a dark triangle of characters. And, but that's all there was. Like any port in a storm. And like I said, your imagination fills in the gaps, just like Goldeneye.
I'm so glad I was born in 92, because by the time I needed to use printers and computers and stuff like that, they were decent.
The first photograph was of Xenia, or even like...
Xenia.
Xenia.
Yes.
Xenia on the top.
Yes.
Moneypenny kept up her running commentary. ID confirmed, on a top, Xenia, former Soviet fighter pilot, worked for a year just before the 91 coup as a general pilot for KGB, current suspected link with the St. Petersburg Janus crime syndicate.
Janus, like anus, April Fool.
April Fools! This whole thing was so that we could say anus on a podcast! Yeah!
What has our life become?
I'm just writing it now. I'm just
night.
like, you know, we've come to this place. We just got to enjoy it.
Oh god.
Can't be as bad as our Howard the Duck episode.
Oh.
You grew a feather in your leg.
That was probably the most torturous experience I have ever had on this show. I still bear the scars to this day. Getting back on track.
Yeah.
They pronounce Janus as Janus. Guys, it's Greek, not Spanish. So that was irritating me. I wanted you to share in my pain.
Okay, yeah. Well, everyone's sharing your pain right now. Continue.
Yes. Also, why did Xenia use her real name? She's supposed to be a spy. Dude, never give your real name.
Maybe that's not a real name.
I don't even use my real name.
No, no.
Or you don't use your real name. No, none of the names in the book was bad. It's not our real names.
No, that's true.
Speaking of Xenia,
Yes.
she's presently having very rough sex with Admiral Chuck Farrell on his boat, the Manticore.
Admiral Chuck Farrell.
Chuck Farrell.
American, I assume.
Yes.
Chuck Hamburger. On the bed itself, late on this warm and luxurious... this fucking show, April Fools. On the bed itself, late on this warm and luxurious evening, Xenia?
Not like Xena, Xenia, like
Xenia on a top, coupled with Admiral Chuck Farrell.
That's my fault.
That is your fault, and it sounded like my fault, but it was your fault.
I didn't give him the D. I'm sorry, I didn't give him the
He gave her the D. Am I right, April Fools?
T-I-double-G-er. That spells
What?
digger.
That was my Tigger warning.
we needed secret warning. Honestly, we need this is unraveling into Smodcast territory. We sound like we're stoned.
No, don't even. So, Xenia on the top, coupled with Admiral Chuck Farrell, who was slowly understanding that he had never had it so good. She had taken control almost before locking the door to the stateroom and telling him that nobody would disturb them. She had stripped him, pushed him back onto the great bed, and said, "For this one night, Chuck, I want you to enjoy me fully. Think of me as the ultimate pinnacle of your sexual dreams."
Talking.
She slowly undresses for him, gently revealing her body, not in the vulgar grind of a striptease artist, but with the flair and professionalism of a ballerina. Isn't this suddenly changing tense?
Yes.
Each movement seemed to have been choreographed just for him, whispering in his ear, rousing him almost to a frenzy, helping him, instructing him as a perfect body slave, until he became pliable and left with a sense that he owed her a great sexual experience. It was then that she began a true domination of him, straddling his body and riding him, goading him onwards until their sweat mingled and he was completely at her mercy.
This is amazing. What are you doing to me?
So she was on a top.
Yeah, she was. She loves to be on the top.
And he
Then-
had a sense that he owed her a great sexual experience. I've always had that sense.
I also want the audience from now on to imagine that scene, but with Luke's voice instead of Famke's.
Yes.
Then things take a turn.
He gasped and cried out, "Xenia, no, I can't breathe. No!" It was doubtful she even heard him as she flexed her leg muscles even tighter. This was the technique of a boa constrictor, and she felt the bones crack in his chest, with half her mind registering the inevitable crunching horror of ribs crumbling. At the moment of his asphyxiation, Xenia on a top cried out in her own final and conclusive orgasm. Holy crap.
And it gets even weirder.
She swayed to and fro, still rubbing herself against his corpse, moaning and supremely satisfied in her moment of glory.
I love James Bond. This is bananas.
She just, like, blood-eagled him with her vagina.
She is honestly one of the most memorable Bond characters. She's just batshit insane. Balls to the wall. Good lord.
Crikey.
So I'm going to explain some of the plot. Didn't do a Wikipedia save here. This is actually just me reading, comprehending.
I feel like at this point in time, people will forgive us if we don't get all the plot right, because I just realised we're on page 6 out of 15 on the notes.
Yeah! You could edit some of it out, because a lot of it is just us fucking around.
No, that is a lot of work for me. I just can't do it.
God damn it. I did all this work.
I
do all this
know,
work for you.
I know, but still.
So Bond's assignment in Monaco is connected to a demonstration of a high-tech helicopter given the stupid name the Eurocopter Tiger.
I played bass for Eurocopter Tiger in high school.
It is impervious to EMPs and nuclear weapons, which is insanely impressive. I mean, are we talking a direct hit from a nuclear warhead? That thing is not even going to be bothered by the impact? Is that what you're telling me?
Not
Will
the
pilots survive
Eurocopter
that?
Tiger. It's bulletproof.
So none of that is ever addressed, which you'd think would be kind of important. Like, Bond gadgets and vehicles are kind of, they should be, a bit more center stage, but oh well.
Gadgets and vehicles are Bond's meat and potatoes.
I know. There's actually a scene later where, spoilers, it self-destructs, and I go, hang the fuck on. How? And yeah, when we describe that scene later, you will realize it doesn't make any sense.
Much later.
much later. That will be hour 3. I like to do the Peter Jackson method of making entertainment.
You're right. This feels exactly like watching that third Hobbit film.
All right, MI6 has reason to think that the Janus Syndicate, are interested in stealing the helicopter. Bond is already suspicious of Xenia, as she's Russian and a pilot. I'm just saying that might be profiling.
And a woman.
He watched her get on the Manticore with the Admiral, but he doesn't intervene for some reason. It's on the next morning that he sneaks aboard and finds the body. Rushing to the Tiger demonstration, he is too late, as Xenia and Oromov kill the test pilots and fly away. Oh yeah, also it turns out that Oromov is alive and working with Xenia.
If I went to Perth now and they said down at the Claremont Quarter shopping centre there's going to be a tiger demonstration, I would be rushing there as well.
Yeah. I don't know why Bond bothered with the Manticore when you could see the tiger.
Why doesn't Bond ride a real Manticore?
I'm sure that Q could do it.
Build him a Manticore. Breed him a Manticore with science.
Yeah, I can imagine now. Yeah, Daniel Craig on a Manticore. I am down for this. So, they head to Siberia to an outpost. That is Xenia and Oromov. Head to the outpost to inspect the new satellite weapon / space lasers. They're plural. I keep getting confused. Called Goldeneye. So there's multiple Goldeneyes.
They're like the eyelashes.
Yes. Prior to this, we are introduced to some of the characters working at this base. There's Boris, played by Alan Cumming, and Natalia, who is female.
Out among the lines of computers, the girl manipulating the satellite was tall, slender, and dark, with high cheekbones and clear brown eyes. What marked this girl, Natalia Simonova, from the other technicians was her neatness and the clothes she wore, a long black skirt and a white shirt covered by a patterned waistcoat.
As 90s as it gets.
Yeah, she sounds hideous. Many of her colleagues wore the untidy, shapeless grunge look or worse. The man to her right was clad in dirty jeans, a Wired magazine t-shirt and a black leather motorbike jacket. His hair looked as though it had seen neither shampoo nor comb in a week, and his attitude was one of an edgy, spaced-out cyberpunk. Fuck, did my grandfather write this? Boris Grushenko was indeed all of these things and tolerated by those who controlled the establishment because he was undoubtedly the most brilliant scientist in the entire complex. You know, the worst thing about this is you've got the leather jacket, edgy, spaced out cyberpunk. So you cast Alan fucking Cumming?
They gross him up. He really does look the part.
Yeah.
And I would say he's a gross stereotype, but honestly, I know so many people like that.
I know you do.
Oh, yeah, you've met them. It's like how there seems to be a very specific type of person who is drawn to ponytails, fedoras, and trench coats. Like all three of those things together. What is that? What is that, Luke?
It's wrong.
It's wrong, that's what it is. So, we get a little bit of typical movie-style hacking. I've been watching Mr. Robot again, so this is especially laughable to me.
Well, speaking of hacking, I've been watching Vikings, so...
Yes, very different kind. That was, the original hacking, yeah.
And my cats sometimes get hairballs.
Yes.
And they have to hack them up.
Mm-hmm. The English
April
language
Fools!
has many uses for the same word. Although, yes, I was saying, it is interesting to see how computers in films have evolved. In the 90s, I don't think anyone really knew about computers, so screenwriters don't bother with accuracy. And they sort of animate everything. Everything is sort of visualized in a way that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense except for the fact that they're working in a visual medium.
Yes. Well, I mean, you can visualize it in a realistic way, but yeah, it's got like a little animated picture. Alan Cumming has or Boris, I should say, not Alan Cumming himself. There's an animated picture of him on his screen, and as he hacks, the little character sort of does things.
That's straight up Jurassic Park stuff.
Yes.
Where he, like, Dennis Nedry appears on the screen and goes, no, 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 when they're, yeah. Like, that's what hackers did.
Is that what computers like were in the 90s?
Yeah. You had to plug in a little part of your soul and it would appear.
It's like that Tony Hawk game where you take a photo of yourself with the webcam and it's so grainy and you've got this really shitty pixelated version of your face on this pixelated man.
Like Goldeneye. Everything
like Goldeneye
goes around in circles. Especially in today's episode.
Especially me in general. So, while Natalia is out in the break room getting coffee, Xenia and Oromov arrive and kill absolutely everyone in the outpost. Xenia is moist about murder as usual. You do you, girl. They activate one of the satellites, which deploys a nuclear warhead, which of course creates an EMP. Natalia manages to survive somehow and climbs out of the building.
Did you ever read Agatha Christie's Moist About Murder?
Does it have Xenia in it?
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Oh, it sounds fantastic.
Oh, I might be thinking of
yes.
Agatha Christie.
Oh.
April Fools!
So, the scene where Natalia is climbing out of the building goes for a whole goddamn chapter. And he goes into agonizing detail about that. But the opening sequence, which is baller as all hell, doesn't care.
Yeah.
Prioritize, man. I've forgotten your name. Mr. Gardner.
I feel like people who live in glass houses shouldn't be yelling at other people to prioritize.
That's on me. Here we finally get Moneypenny.
Bond went down to the operations room with Moneypenny, who he had to admit was looking more than usually ravishing in a simple black dress with a gold clasp just below her right shoulder. "Just a thrill," he murmured as they got into the lift. "I beg your pardon." She had caught what he had said. Moneypenny's hearing was almost unnaturally acute. She was almost unnaturally acute. The old M used to say that she could hear the rumours from the powder vine directly from her office. Powder vine.
What the shit is a powder? I googled it, got nothing.
It's where they would do their cocaine, I guess.
Yeah, that's more what you get from the Timothy Dalton Bond, but I suppose they are referring to previous events.
"I was observing that I've never seen you look so lovely." "Well, thank you, James. Got some special assignment on tonight?" "No, but I'd like you to look at our sexual harassment policy." I don't...
They do mention that later, actually.
Oh, good. "Well, I don't sit around all the time waiting for you to call. I have a date if you're really interested. A date with a gentleman. We're going to the theatre. Nothing too taxing, I trust. Shakespeare, actually. Love's Labour's Lost. I'm devastated. What will I ever do without you? She gave him a coy little smile. So far as I recall, James, you've never had me. He gave her a sidelong glance. No, but it's often been my midsummer night's dream.
Oh, it's so cheesy. I love it. I love their playful banter.
Oh, it's fantastic, yes. I bet it would be a real tempest in the bedroom. Oh, you're a funny old fellow, Bond.
It's so stupid. I love it. I don't think a Bond film is complete without such a scene. Although, in the early ones, Moneypenny's a fascinating character. I won't go into it too much as we are already running over schedule. I don't know how we did that.
I know.
It's me. That's just my natural power.
There's a lot of notes here as well. There's a lot of stuff.
Well, that's the thing with Bond. You really want to, hit all these particular moments, and this one just happens to have a lot of those moments. But yeah, so Moneypenny, that sort of weird sexual chemistry, unrequited sexual chemistry, wasn't there from the beginning, but it did slowly evolve over time.
And yes, and shown here through wonderful Shakespeare references. I do like it when he says, let me take you to Venice and I'll put a pound of flesh in you, you dirty Jew.
Oh, God.
April Fools!
Right, so the meeting covers what they've already, what they have, MI6 have observed of the destruction of the outpost. Bond notices there seems to be a survivor, and yes, it was a matter of him going, wait, I see something in that corner there, and hands, yes, I think there's a person. So he discusses this with them, and this is Judi Dench's only major scene, but, she's awesome, as always. I find it funny how big of a deal they make over a woman being in charge, not only because it reflects dated attitudes of the 90s, but this is Britain. You guys have had a queen for a while, guys.
Margaret Thatcher.
Also that, yes.
She paused again and looked him straight in the eyes. You really don't like me, do you, Bond? You see me as a jumped-up pocket calculator who's far more interested in my number than your own instinct. Jumped-up pocket calculator. I'm going to turn you upside down and make you say boobs. Bond simply nodded assent. Well, that's fine by me because I see you as a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. You're a relic of the Cold War. She smiled. It may surprise you to know that I believe very strongly in having people in the field, men and women who can bore into hearts and minds of any enemies. I was put here to reorganize and make sure we come in under budget each year, and by God, I'm going to do that. But to do it properly, I know we have to send people out undercover, and some as recruiting agents. Now more than ever before, we need networks, agents working out there at the sharp end. So if you think for one moment that I don't have the balls to send a man out to die in some dodgy foreign field, then your instincts are dead wrong. Breaking news, Judi Dench has balls. Bond had no reply to this impassioned speech. If anything, he did have a tad more respect for the new M, who had started to speak again. I have absolutely no compunction about sending you to your death, 007, but I certainly won't do it on a mere whim, even with your cavalier attitude to life and death. Badass.
She's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting that they do call out the fact that Bond is a misogynist, a dinosaur, a relic of the Cold War, but do nothing to subvert that or change that. They're just calling out, like, yeah, we're aware. Anyway, here's Bond. M agrees to send Bond to St. Petersburg to do some investigation, not before he stops by Q's lab, where he's given a laser wristwatch, a grappling hook belt, and exploding pen. Now, there seems to be some debate over whether or not Bond uses all the gadgets Q gives him. I say yes. These scenes follow a predictable structure. Q equips Bond with 2 or 3 gadgets which he uses over the course of the film. Witty banter ensues, whilst in the background, completely bonkers gadgets are being tested. For example, the flamethrower bagpipes in World Is Not Enough, or the deadly umbrella in For Your Eyes Only. So, I don't count those background gadgets, but I wish they were given to Bond as an option.
If this had flamethrower bagpipes and a reason for him to bring out the bagpipes, I would be pretty impressed.
That would definitely add another star to the rating on this film/book. Yes.
Absolutely.
Not much to say about the scene other than an airbag in a phone booth nearly kills an assistant. Q demonstrates a rocket launching leg cast, and Bond picks up Q's baguette thinking it's some kind of device. Don't touch that, it's my lunch. Whether that is truly his lunch or not, I think is debatable. It's just sitting there on a workbench, no plate, no container of any description. Suspicious to me.
That's a gadget, in my opinion. Like, if
Definitely.
it's there, if it's on the bench, Bond should be able to take it. Is this John Cleese at this stage?
No, so World is not enough. The last Bond was better. That was the first appearance of John Cleese.
Oh, yes, I remember, in fact.
Yeah, so this is Desmond Llewellyn.
Yes.
In St. Petersburg, we encounter an ugly American.
Aren't they all? Hey, Waffles! He spotted his contact just to the right, away from the cube, big, burly, and reading a Russian gardening magazine. As he walked up to the man, Bond smiled and spoke the contact phrase. In London, April is a spring month. The American accent was almost too obvious. What are you, the weatherman? Bond scowled and the American continued. Codes, cloak and dagger? That's all gone, pal. Come on, the car's over there. Fuck your tradition and protocols and everything. Let's get a cheeseburger and shove it in our fat gobs.
Freedom! And I wish I had a gunshot sound to go with that.
Yeah, I don't have one here, unfortunately. All I can give you is... Yabba, come on.
Okay, thanks. So Bond insists that Wade complete the contact phrase, and then he says, "Show me a rose," to which Wade undoes his trousers and reveals a rose tattoo on his butt with the name of his third wife, Muffy.
Muffy.
Why? How? We don't get any explanation. He also tries to call James Jim, which, I mean, rightly disgusts him deeply.
That's a time when you should be able to use your license to kill.
Yes. Oh, Jimmy Bond.
When he bet he wishes he had that baguette. That he could just, the American guy would be like, oh, food, and start to eat it, and then it would, explode or expand in his throat.
Yeah. This is the part where the plot slows down a bit. In most James Bond films, really, they always have strong beginnings, strong ends, and then the middle kind of lags, especially in the novelizations. It gets very detailed and technical, and I don't care about any of that, and nor do you.
No, I'm lagging too. It's getting late, and I'm like, I've got to wake up. If only we had, some big, jolly, fat person in this to get me excited again.
Yeah, well, have I just got the guy for you. Wade takes Bond to Valentin Zukovsky, Robbie Coltrane's character.
Oh, you're the wizard, Harry.
Close. It's established that a few years ago Bond shot him in the left leg, which is why he has a limp. He also stole Valentin's woman. That's cold, James.
And he's just fucked Muffy in the back of the car.
God damn it, James. So there's also a brief cameo from Minnie Driver in a tacky cowgirl costume singing Raining in Baltimore in the heaviest Russian accent ever. However, in the movie she sings Stand By Your Man, which I think is much funnier, although both are probably excruciating.
Does Minnie Driver cameo as a Minnie Driver?
She should have. Wasted opportunity.
I won't fit in this tiny car. Stop it, Mr. Bond. Come on, get in.
Was she in the Italian Job?
Whatever happened to Minnie Driver?
Yeah, her and, what's that woman in Groundhog Day?
Andy McDowell.
Yeah, both of them were so huge in the 90s and then nothing.
They got over 40, that's what happened.
Ah, of course.
And they started to fade like Marty's brother in Back to the Future.
Yeah, even if you were standing right in front of them, you couldn't see them.
No, you couldn't see them because they were too old.
Such a shame.
I'm sitting up. I'm concentrating. All right.
Okay,
let's go.
I can get into it.
Second half of the podcast. Let's fucking do this.
Zukovsky is the only connection Bond has to meeting the leader of Janus.
Anus.
Zukovsky is what?
Anus.
Yes. Yes, Valentin is still quite bitter about his wounded leg, nearly shooting Bond, but agrees to aid him when the agent offers him a bribe of money and explosives, as you do. Zukovsky also gives Bond a bit of history about Janus's leader. The man is allegedly the child of Cossack parents whose tribe had collaborated with the Nazis during World War II, and were given refuge by the English government. However, they were betrayed by England and then forced back to the USSR, where they were all executed under the orders of Stalin.
Do you think our listeners are following the plot at this point?
I hope so. I put so much effort into this,
Then
guys. Come on, try.
Yeah, then they can explain it to me. I'm not following anymore. After this, Bond chills.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I didn't make that green. Yes. So after this, Bond chills in the hotel pool where he's interrupted.
Xenia on a top stood facing him, holding a towel in front of her, a twist of her wrist, and she was off balance and sprawled on the floor as Bond dived for his pistol, wrapped in the robe which lay on the small slatted bench. By the time he turned, she had clambered to her feet. I reckon he's going to stick his pistol in her slat. She smiled and slowly allowed the towel to drop from her body. What a power move. Even though he sensed he was in grave danger, Bond blinked the sweat from his eyes. Xenia naked was every man's fantasy of the perfect woman. You don't need a gun, Commander. Her voice was throaty, almost pleading. That depends on your definition of safe sex, Miss Onatop. That makes no sense, Bond.
No. Not
Try
really.
harder on your bants, pal.
Yeah, and the film dialogue, that's exactly the same, so there's no improvement there. This scene in the movie is so over the top, it's insane, and apparently Famke broke a rib filming it.
Her own?
Yes. Allegedly. I love putting the word allegedly on everything. Bond manages to pull a gun on Xenia and orders her to take him to Janus. He takes him to an abandoned lot with broken Soviet-era statues. It momentarily becomes Tim Burton's Batman.
I remember this level very vividly in Goldeneye. It's just like a sea of a couple of statue models just cut and pasted, and it's like this weird graveyard swap meet of a nightmare place, and Robbie Coltrane is in one of the shipping containers. Which, I believe, is how he travels from country to country, because he's so fat, am I right?
I should watch a playthrough of that game. That would be interesting. So, then we have the shocking twist. Janus turns out to be Alec. He's been alive this whole time, and it looks pretty good for a guy who survived an explosion. The book mentions a tiny scar, and I barely noticed anything in the movie, so maybe that Dorian Gray theory was right. Or maybe this implies he was already in league with the Russians. Anyway, Alex gives some exposition, and, as Valentine's already said, turns out his parents escaped execution, fled to England, where Alec was born. That's pretty much all there is in that scene. Alec then tranquilizes Bond, who later wakes up to find himself in the unintentional comedy corner.
Thanks for the tranks. He was being banged hard and regularly in the back. That's all you needed. Someone was calling to him, a woman, her speech accented. He could not move or open his eyes, and his chest felt as though a mule had kicked him. He tried to retreat into sleep. After all, being asleep was being safe, and he had no desire to face anything unsafe. Wake up.
Bond-like.
Wake up, mister, sir, wake up. Please wake up. Definitely a Russian accent, and she seemed to be pounding on his back. Finally, he struggled to the surface and found himself returning to a very alien world. He sat in a cockpit. Do you think it was Famke's cockpit? Rows of instruments and switches were in front of him and a canopy around him, but he was bound into the seat tightly. He's inside her!
Yep, like in American Gods.
Yes.
He and Natalia have been strapped into the Eurocopter, which is programmed to fire rockets at itself. So, but the nuclear missile's right, but it's nuclear proof. So, explain this.
This is Tiger Eurocopter of legend.
Yeah, it's just dividing by zero. You can't do it. But, I mean, James doesn't put as much faith into the Eurocopter Tiger as we do, so he uses his head, literally, to hit the emergency eject button. He does a bit of a Sam Wertho James Bond move here. The two land safely, but are immediately arrested by the Russian police.
That's lucky. I thought it was going to have to be one of those things like where he wakes up inside of her and then he has to wait till she's asleep and then he climbs out and then he has to put stones inside her and sew her up and then run away. Like the goats and the wolf and the thing. Anyone know what I'm talking about?
That's really familiar. Hang on, what is that?
That's like a story like a fairy tale that I heard as a kid. You know, and the goats were in the house and this wolf wanted to eat the goats and he pretended that he was their mother by like covering his paw in flour and putting his paw up by the window. Does that ring a bell?
Yes. Oh man, I cannot reach my original versions of the Brothers Grimm books, but of stories, I should say. That's because I'm normally a nerd for this stuff. I am sorry, I'm letting everyone down.
You know, next time I have to make a character in a video game, which will be Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
Next week.
Yes.
Eurocopter Tiger.
Yeah. And make it have my face.
Now, good news is we've got a Wikipedia save here, right?
Yes, because you're doing it, so, you know, monkey see, monkey do. Then this part is really plot heavy and none of it is worth quoting. So,
I hear that you got friendly with a monkey at one point.
And that's how we got into this situation.
So this is from Wikipedia. This is summarizing the next bit of plot. While waiting to be questioned, Bond tells Natalia that he knows who she is, recognizing that her watch is permanently stopped, a sign of the EMP that destroyed Sevenia? She tells him she knows little else besides Odomov's theft of Goldeneye control disc and that Boris is working with the General. Minister Mishkin walks in the room and threatens Bond with execution for espionage. Bond counters with accusations of treason by Oromov. Natalia admonishes them both and answers Mishkin's question as to why Oromov would steal Goldeneye. Natalia tells him there is a second satellite with a nuclear weapon. Oromov suddenly bursts into a lot of bursting in and out of rooms and protests that Mishkin is interfering with his own investigation. Oromov seizes Bond's Walther PPK and kills a guard, and Mishkin intending to frame Bond. Bond is able to subdue Oromov and a few guards, and he and Natalia escape into the archives. Bond escapes after Natalia is captured by Oromov. Bond steals a Russian tank and chases after them. Whew.
Yep, there you go. The Walther PPK, it sort of straddles that line of kind of a cool name, kind of a ridiculous name. I don't know where I stand on it.
Now, the original Megatron is a Walther something.
Is it? Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Not
true.
big into Transformers. Why does he turn into a gun? I know everyone said it, but...
Why does he turn into a gun, am I right? Soundwave turns into a boombox. What the friggity? April Fools.
No, April Fool's is that in the movie Soundwave is a satellite?
Yeah, that makes sense. That was smart.
Yeah.
And in the third movie is a car.
Wait, what?
It's true.
Huh. So the tank sequence... Oh, yeah, we shouldn't be talking about Transformers, but we've got to focus on James Bond. Yep. So,
okay, yes. Goldeneye.
In this movie and this book, the tank sequence is one of the main set pieces, but it's honestly dull. It's... The only notable moment is when the tank crashes into a statue and it sits on top of the tank for a while, but other than that, when you compare it to all the other action sequences, which are amazing, I don't know why this one is so forgettable.
In the film, it's forgettable.
In both,
and
honestly.
in the book, it's even more forgettable.
Yeah. So, the next sequence is on a big black train, which is Janice's mobile headquarters. Which, I don't know, I think I'd do that. That would be cool. Yeah. As Bond villain lairs go, I quite like it. You don't get to see much of it, though.
Bit of a Snowpiercer vibe.
Yeah. Anyway, plot stuff. Trevelyan summons Oromov into the room with Natalia, whom he is holding hostage. James causes a minor distraction by telling Oromov of Trevelyan's Cossack heritage. He's able to shoot Oromov, but Trevelyan and Xenia escape. Trevelyan locks the train remotely, trapping Bond and Natalia inside, and tells Bond that he's planted the explosive on the train with timers set for the same 6 minutes Bond gave him years before, in actuality 3 minutes. Using the laser in his wristwatch, Bond cuts through the floor while Natalia, on a computer console, finds Boris Grishenko's location in Cuba. They need to escape the train before it explodes.
I definitely remember using a laser watch in the video game to cut out the floor of a train.
I think that's pretty handy. I'd have one of those. I don't wear watches, though. That's my only problem.
Okay, so the laser's not the problem. It's just that you don't wear watches.
Yeah, so could they put
So you could readily get yourself a laser watch, which could cut holes in the floors, but the only thing holding you back is that you just wouldn't feel comfortable wearing it.
It doesn't suit my style. I just don't think it's working for me. So if you can, like, make that an app in my phone, that'd be great.
I saw Book Was Better occasional guest host Brett at Comic-Con, and I was wearing my wristband for the event.
Oh, yes.
And while talking to him, I did look at my wristband for the time.
Oh, no.
And I don't even wear a watch normally.
Isn't that strange? I suppose you get conditioned over after so much time.
Yes, this is true. There you
Time.
go. Learned something. Taylor's old as Tim.
Jack Wade helps Bond and Natalia travel to Cuba. In the novelization, there are disguises involved.
Bond hated disguises, never felt happy wearing them, found it difficult to take on some new role. He made a lame... You're a spy, dickhead. That should be your other meat and potatoes. He made a lame protest saying he wasn't going to wear fancy dress, not for anybody. Don't worry, James, we'll be subtle. We won't put you in drag. This isn't Wild Wild West. Just age you up a bit and Natasha can be aged down. It'll be cool. Don't worry. Who's Natasha? Or is that Natalia?
It's Natalia.
Okay, she can be aged down. So she's going to be what, 7? At the hotel, nobody challenged them. They showered and then waited, wondering if Jack Wade would really come up with the goods, which was a big bag of Taco Bell, I assume. He was, in fact, surprisingly fast, and at around 7 o'clock he arrived at their room with a case full of what he insisted upon calling goodies, plus a pair of flight bags. There was an American passport for Bond, complete with a new face, which sported large heavy spectacles, grey hair, and a chubbier face. These changes were simple, a grey rinse for the hair and foam pads to go into his cheeks. Don't try and drink anything while you're wearing those in your mouth, James. They tend to suck up liquids, so you spray everyone. I wonder where he got these super absorbent pads that he's getting Bond to stick in his cheeks. I read that in an upmarket espionage novel somewhere.
That's what Bond says. Have they never heard of silicone or any other non-absorbent material? Or maybe just like latex makeup effects? Guys, this is amateur.
We're going to stuff your cheeks and have you wear a floor-length red shirt with an A on the front. You'll be traveling as a band member of the Chipmunks.
It would look something like that. That's how I'm going to imagine it from now on.
Yes.
So, Natalia, not Natasha, as Mr. Gardner seems to keep doing throughout the book. Thinking about Black Widow, I suppose.
We're all drifting.
Meanwhile, she is put in a British school uniform. Why she would be wearing this outside of school is beyond me. I'm glad this whole sequence isn't in the film. Although, what is it with disguises? They're so common in both James Bond and Sherlock Holmes novels, but I mean, well, really rarely in the movie adaptations, which is a good thing.
I think because, like, don't you reckon Mission Impossible probably spoiled that for everybody?
I've actually never seen a Mission Impossible.
Well, just because they have the mask, but it's really just another actor, and then they,
Oh, okay.
cut to Tom Cruise. But he takes on a different face, which is what Black Widow does as well in Winter Soldier.
Much better, though,
So she's a different actor. Well, the same, really. And so she's a different actress. But I think that's a bummer, because I'd rather see, like, Scarlett pretending to be other people, because that's what a spy's got to do, as opposed to, we'll just get another actor and say it was a piece of tech that doesn't exist.
Oh, if they ever do a Black Widow movie, I'd love it to be a little bit like Orphan Black. I think she can do it.
All right, so what's happening now?
Well, for some reason, the two of them, not Wade, but Natalia and Bond, have time for a romantic vacation. Here they are at a romantic beach at sunset.
Sounds like a bit of
At a
a
remote. Yes.
Lolita vacation with him as an old man and her as a schoolgirl.
Yeah, this is taking a turn.
Janus was your friend, wasn't he? He asked.
Yeah, which is the author's goof, not mine. It should be she.
Yes, yeah, true. Weird. I think the author might have been Goofy from Disneyland. And I say that because Bond keeps saying Gorsh.
Gorsh.
Several lifetimes ago, yes. And now he's your enemy, so tomorrow you'll go and kill him. It's that simple, yes? Yes. She drew in breath through her nostrils. The sound made him look at her, and he saw the anger in her eyes. No, James, no, it's not that easy. She tried to get up from the sand, but he grabbed her arm and drew her back to him. I hate you, she spat like an angry cat. I hate you, I hate all of you. Your kind have caused so much grief all over the world with your guns and your instruments of death. She began hitting him, pummeling his chest. He enveloped her in his arms, holding her tightly as her fighting became less violent. She began to cry softly. So many of my friends, she sobbed. My friends, members of my family, so many have died because of people like you.
It wouldn't be a Bond film without some hysterical women.
She just sorted that all out by herself, didn't she? Like, she was angry, and then she was sad, and then she was calm, and he just did nothing. He didn't even say anything.
What a roller coaster.
He was probably reading his email on his phone.
Anyway.
Probably checking his facts from his CD slot.
I would love it if he never even looked up at her. He's like, no, wait, don't go.
He takes out his headphones and goes, sorry, what?
Anyway, they bone, and the next day they head towards the location of Boris's signal. A missile hits their plane and they crash into the jungle. They are attacked for the final time by Xenia.
Sorry, just one quick question. Did they bone on the beach?
No, they went back to the hotel.
Okay, good. Because otherwise her Bond name would be Sandy Crack. April Fool!
Sandy Cheeks.
This time...
That's a SpongeBob character, isn't it?
Sandy Cheeks, yeah.
Yeah.
This time, Mr. Bond, the pleasure will be all mine. His reply, don't be so bloody melodramatic on a top, was most certainly not comprehensible. As she scissored his ribs, bearing down on him. Oh, the scissors. This time she had him. He could feel the crushing and thought the bones would crack at any minute as he fought for breath. She started to scream orgasmically. Oh, yes, yes. And only stopped as an arm slid around her neck. Bloody Q should have given him a pair of sunglasses with a snorkel. Natalia was on her back and trying to pull her from Bond, but Xenia threw her off with one arm, shouting, wait for your turn, you're next. They're going to be Scissor Sisters. She had lost some of her grip in dealing with Natalia, enough for Bond to reach up behind her and get a hand around the machine pistol. His thumb hit the safety catch and he squeezed the trigger. He had no particular purpose, but the weapon sent a spray of bullets straight up, tearing into the side of the helicopter. The pilot was obviously caught off guard, for he opened up the throttle and the machine moved rapidly forward, ascending as it did so. The line to which Xenia was secured and went taut, pulling her away from Bond, who flicked her into a spin as she was lifted at speed across a clearing, heading straight for a tangle of tree limbs where she was suddenly trapped in a V formation of thick branches. Above the helicopter was dragged backwards by the anchor of Xenia's body caught in the tree. The pilot tried to descend and regain control, but the tightness of the rope pulled the machine sideways so that he suddenly lost it altogether. The machine tipped to one side at a dangerous angle, rapidly losing height and dropping into the trees. There was a terrible rending, then the fireball leaped up into the air. I'm surprised she didn't pop his head off like a cork when she went flying out of the plane.
Yeah, what if she had, like there's that urban legend that dogs, their jaws can lock. So what if her legs lock and so she gets pulled away?
Yeah. Well, she managed to pull down the helicopter.
Yeah. So, looking up at Xenia's mint condition corpse, Bond says, sure did enjoy a good squeeze.
Again, doesn't really make sense.
I mean, she was squeezed between the V. She was in the V, got squeezed. I gotta stop saying that.
Yeah. Try harder, Bond.
Yeah. Bond and Natalia discover that the lake really hides a giant satellite dish embedded in the earth. So we're at the final boss
we're
battle
here.
and stretch. We can see the finish line, guys.
Okay, here we go.
Alec and Boris have activated the second satellite's nuclear bomb and have programmed it to explode over London. Alex's plan is one of revenge against England's betrayal of his Cossack heritage. The EMP will destroy every computer system, causing nationwide chaos. The blast will also erase all financial records, but not before Alec has had Boris break into the bank or hack into the Bank of London and loot billions of pounds. This plan, for obvious reasons, is dumb. They're stealing money, then immediately rendering money meaningless. I'd be a better Bond villain, just putting it out there. Inside, Bond places bombs around the place. Natalia uses her hacker skills to stop Boris from controlling Goldeneye, which, gotta give it to her, she is one of the most competent Bond girls. You know, she knows things about technology that most of the men don't know about. Trevelyan and Bond engage in a hand-to-hand fight. Bond disrupts the satellite so Boris can no longer control Goldeneye. One thing leads to another thing leads to an explosion. Boris is still alive in the facility and screams, "I am invincible," before being doused with liquid nitrogen and instantly turning into an icy blue statue.
Oh, I don't remember that.
It was out of the blue.
Finally.
I'm a man now. Here is the final showdown between Alec and Bond.
Now, James, it's time for our last goodbye, I think. Trevelyan stepped down to the rung directly above Bond and raised his booted foot to bring it down on Bond's hand. As he did, the rung gave way with a sharp crack. He felt Trevelyan's body brush against him as he dropped. In a reflex, he grabbed one hand and caught Trevelyan's left wrist. The man looked up at him, sweat and terror on his face. "James," he called, his eyes pleading. "Haul me up, for heaven's sake, for old time's sake, haul me up." "Go to hell," Bond shouted, and released Trevelyan, who hit the antenna and screamed, dropping all the way down to the dish. So he was done in by a faulty ladder, really.
Yeah. Also, I love Pierce Brosnan screaming, "Go to hell." It reminds me of this movie. I think I've mentioned it before. I can't remember what it was called, but some great Pierce Brosnan acting. I think I will put a link to the clip in the comment section. And he's just like, "Then maybe you shouldn't be living here." Angry Pierce Brosnan is the best.
I'm sitting back down again. I'm reclining. We made it. I'm very excited.
All right.
Just the ending. You've got the actual book there, so...
Final page.
I'm laying back, I'm listening, I'm relaxing. Let's hear how this thing wraps up.
The gunship came down gently in the clearing. Bond dropped thankfully to the ground and stretched out, his eyes closed, as you are. Inside, Natalia spoke in rapid Russian, telling the pilot that if he tried no tricks, he could leave. Then she ran back and jumped from the main door onto the earth next to Bond. The gunship, with a thankful pilot at the controls, lifted off as she spoke softly. James, are you okay? James, oh, please, speak to me." His eyes opened. He opened one eye and pulled her down to him. "Yes," he said, "I'm fine, thank you." "You devil," she laughed, and he pulled her close so their mouths touched, and he rolled on top of her. "James, no, not here. James, somebody might see." "Don't be silly, Natalia." He looked at her lovingly. There's nobody left to see anything. He only had eyes for Natalia, so...
Golden eyes!
Golden eyes! So he could not see Jack Wade rise from the bushes, nor the 40 or so Marines in camouflage appear from the jungle to stand, smiling with pleasure. From far away came the sound of the Marine Cougar helicopters bringing in reinforcement. Bond needed no backup at this particular time.
"That's one hell of a fuck show," said Wade, biting into his hot dog. Wow. And that is the end.
That was the most magnificent, wonderful, beaut piece of steak I've ever eaten. And it was so tender.
I'm shattered.
Oh, you're welcome, Steak Man.
Hey, Steak Man. I'm shattered. I don't know. I was like really tired tonight already. And but well done.
Fucking lightweight, dude. Toughen up.
I know. And well done to you for putting all that together. Like what a odyssey. What a Bond odyssey.
A Bond
odyssey.
Oh, that was
so,
terrible. We'll workshop that.
I feel like you should ask me because you did the work. But what was?
So?
Yeah, you ask.
Was the book better?
No.
No, absolutely. Was the game better?
Yes, I'm definitely siding with the N64 game.
I enjoy this movie. I think it's one of Brosnan's best. It might be the best, actually, but we will find out because we're probably going to do the rest because I am a completist. Yeah, there are moments in this book where it gets a little bit Fleming-esque. But for the most part, the only times it expands are very weird tangents, like the disguise sequence. No, the movie is definitely better.
Yeah, he didn't seem to take the opportunity to get into Bond's head. Like, I'd like to see Bond as more of a point of view character.
Yeah, and I was really hoping maybe we would get a bit more of Alec Trevelyan, because I think he's quite an interesting character. But
I guess
no, there's nothing.
Bond's internal monologue isn't the most, like, exciting or surprising thing in the world. It's probably just like, pussy, 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 pussy. Oh, pussy, 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 pussy.
Occasionally, cars, guns, gambling, drinking, but yes.
Mini driver driving a Mini.
All right, so Amazon reviews. Should I do the silly voice?
No, I want to read these without reading them before.
I should say, again, almost like with the Star Trek one, when we're working with franchises like this, the people leaving these reviews are definitely fans. They're quite articulate. So it took me a while to sift through and find some funny ones, but hopefully these are amusing enough.
Well, this one is in all caps, which, if it's good enough for the President of the United States, I think it's good enough for Amazon book reviews. Here we go. After a few pages into the book, I was taken back a decade plus years sitting in a movie theatre watching a movie by the same name as the book I was reading. All the excitement and adventure. The same villains, the super helicopter, the same satellites, the same heroine. John Gardner brought the movie back to me with the same words, using my mind as the movie screen. If you like the Bond movies, then this book is a must. Man, this guy has just finally summed up for a lot of us what a book is.
I wonder, are some people not aware of the function of a novelization?
Well, I work in a library, and a lot of the time I'll hear people go, wait a minute. Are you saying that this thing will use my mind as a movie screen?
Granted, it is a school library, so, they're kids. Yeah.
It is a very exciting time that we live in. And I've just realised you also went to Goodreads. What did I tell you about this last time?
I can't help myself.
It is the Wild West. It is a hive of scum and villainy, and you're going to pick up bad habits there. There's no control there.
But if you're desperate for shitty reviews, it's the place to go.
I thought it was a good way to transfer the movie into the book. I like the way you get to read the thought process of Bond. Awesome story, only one funny part is missing. Oh, there's a mystery.
What part? I don't know.
Can you think of a funny part that was missing?
I mean, well, no, because, Minnie Driver was there.
What about that part where he says, name's Bond, James Bum. April Fools!
Oh, yes, so we have gotten to the end of this, and we have not pranked you, punked you, done any goofs. Well, we've plenty of goofs, actually. We made a right cock-up of this. We're sorry.
Deliberately, because it was part of the prank.
Yeah.
Like, we actually had a very competent, well-structured episode. But we pranked it. You got pranked.
Have I ever actually done an episode under 2 hours? Under an hour, I should say.
I'm sure in the past.
Maybe when I was first starting out.
I did take you on a lot of tangents there. It's just as much my fault. I share the blame. Look, what happened. Can't go back. Just got to keep going forward.
Yep.
So, look, if you got this far, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Always a pleasure. You never know what you're going to get. Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolates. I don't want that kid to end up looking like me while you've got AIDS, Jenny. Bubba Gump Shrimp, all that stuff. Please go to fruitlesspursuits.com to find out everything else we're doing. There's FP Cast, which is our weekly pop culture podcast, the one that I do with Jacinta, where coming up we are reviewing Life and Anne Hathaway's Colossal. That should be a lot of fun.
Just life in general, like all of life.
All of life, from being a newborn babe to from the cradle to the grave, in fact.
Very ambitious. Are you going to try and keep that under an hour?
It will be a solid 55 minutes. And that has links to our Facebook group discussion. You can tell us how much you loved this episode, how you what a fool you were for listening to it in April, and how we goofed and pranked and punked you. And and rate, review, iTunes, all that sort of bullshit. And thank you again to Courtney for putting this one together and giving me a holiday that felt like the hardest work I've ever done in my life.
You're welcome. And I make no promises that the next one. We are thinking about a certain franchise that I am very fond of that we will be talking about next time, and I don't know if I can keep that under 2 hours.
God, I don't even know. I can't even remember what that is. What is it?
Night at the Museum 2, Battle of the Smithsonian.
Oh, Christ. So I think we've only done Jacinta and I did Night at the Museum 1. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I did the first one, yes.
Yeah, okay. I had a bit of a thing for, what's her name?
Amelia Earhart?
No.
Sacagawea.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, she's stunning.
Yeah, she was lovely. There you go.
Those movies.
There's a image to carry with you for the rest of the day, dear listener. Only you can get us out of here, Courtney. Do you want to say the magic words?
Catch you on the flips.
Jumanji.